Hello, I'm Dan.
I'm Simon.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article each week and we talk about what we find. Simon, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Daniel, we're talking about Vallesa de la Guareña, which is a municipality located in the province of Zamora, Castile and Leon in Spain.
Lovely.
I feel like Pixel Girl has probably already got her phone out as she listens to this episode and is calling me about how terrible my pronunciation was there, but I gave it a go, god damn it.
Nice. Have you been near there? Have you been to this region of Spain before?
So Zamora, no. The only places that I've been to... Actually, I think the only place I've been to in mainland Spain is Madrid. I don't think I've been anywhere... Oh, no, I've been in the very far north. I've been in the Pyrenees. Because I've been to the Balearic Islands. I've been to Ibiza and Mallorca. I went to Ibiza when I was a kid. I don't think my parents knew that it was such a party island. So I did that. And then, I've been to Madrid to see Pixel Girl. But I haven't been to Spain very much. I think we're going to go more in the future. Let's put it like that.
I've been to Madrid and Barcelona and briefly to San Sebastian.
Where's that?
That's in like the top right, the very bottom left corner of France.
So the Pyrenees kind of region. Yeah,
it's near Bilbao.
Oh, okay, great. I actually had an email from a follower yesterday saying it was quite funny. They were thinking of starting a podcast and asking for some advice, and I was like, well, you came to the right person. We regularly make podcast episodes. And they'd said that I'm from Barcelona and then Spain crossed out and Catalonia, and I was like, that's a bit of spice in there. But I like it. I like they had a great idea for a podcast. So I won't spoil it, but I thought it was a very, very good PhD related idea.
I went to Barcelona entirely on a whim.
Really?
Because the way the academic year fell, moving from Australia to the UK to come to uni, I ended up with like 8 months of like free time before the academic year started, because I graduated in November 2014 and then wouldn't come to uni until September 2015. So I had all this time, and a friend, I worked for most of that time, but then I decided to go travelling on a gap year with a friend of mine, and one of our stops was Toulouse in France, which was really lovely. But areas of it were lovely. There are other areas where we felt we were going to be stabbed. But such is life. And we were getting very stressed and just a little bit fed up with Toulouse. So we were sitting in this very small, seedy French kind of bar in Toulouse. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. We were sitting on our phones with a big stein of beer, and just went, I'm sick of this. Should we go somewhere else? And we literally put in cheap bus journeys from Toulouse. And there was at 6 in the morning, so in like 5 hours time, there was a bus from Toulouse to Barcelona. We just went, let's just go. So we went back to the hostel, packed our bags, walked immediately to the bus stop. So you might be able to hear my windows singing there. It's quite windy down next to...
It's pissing it down outside. Hopefully the rain doesn't come through on this end either. But it's a bit horrible weather.
No, I haven't got too much rain, but it's damn windy, so I apologise if you hear some kind of Valkyrie shrieking. It's just my window. But the bus journey from Toulouse to Barcelona it was like 5 hours or 6 hours, something mad. So we just said, well, we'll get to the station in Toulouse, wait for the bus, get on the bus, and then start sleeping. And it went really well. We stayed there, and then we were meant to go to Madrid, but we didn't, for numerous reasons. But there we go. Brief aside, Barcelona, quite a nice place.
I've got to say, it's somewhere that Pixel Girl went when she was younger with her friends, and I think she'd be quite keen for us to go back. So I'd love to go. It certainly looks nice, and I probably should learn a little bit more about Spanish before I go, because if I get stranded and separated from Pixel Girl, I am so screwed. Actually, to be fair, I imagine it's such a touristy place. I'd probably be fine. Anyway, do you remember how we're supposed to do this podcast about Wikipedia articles?
Oh, yeah, right, yeah, of course.
It's been a while, guys. I didn't want to do the classic thing that every podcast does, where they start off with going, well, very sorry, since it's been so long since the last episode, guys. We've just been so busy, which is true, but I feel like every podcast does that. That isn't like an official show. So I've now done that, of course, by mentioning it, but there we go. It goes without saying, I think, if there isn't an episode, you can pretty much guarantee that Simon and I haven't found a time in the week. Yeah. But hey, we're here now.
Yes,
we are here now, and we're talking about Vallesa de la Guareña, which is so it's in basically imagine a line coming from the top of Portugal going east into Spain, and this place is just a little bit into Spain from there. There is a panoramic view that is included in the article. It's not exactly a bustling metropolis, Dan. This, according to the 2015 census, the municipality has a population of 106 inhabitants.
Oh my God.
And I'm looking at this panoramic picture, which is, I'd like to point out, about 40% sand dune and 20% sky. And in the narrow little band, I can see, it looks like that's too many houses for 106 people. I presume somebody had some family visiting or something. Someone's extended family came in, so they massively increased the population. Now there isn't very much on here. I can tell you that the transportation is on the CL 605 and the ZAL 2110. Apparently that's a page that doesn't exist on Wikipedia. And there are two main sites. There are two main sites in Vallesa de la Guareña. There is the Church of San Juan Bautista, my favourite actor in Guardians of the Galaxy, and the Mudéjar Church of San Andrés in Olmo de la Guareña from the 13th century, recently protected as being on the Heritage Register in Spain.
Wow.
So that's that's interesting, right? So the church, it's a church of San Andrés, but the Mudéjar refers to the architectural style that was influenced by the Moors. So it's very Islamic.
My
influence.
family.
Yes, your family. If I actually go on the article for Mudéjar, it's going to have your face. Yeah, there it is. Your face is just all over the ceiling of this place.
Is it my face slowly morphing into a light bulb?
So the morphing. Although I'd like to point out that I don't know if you've been on the Discord recently, because the Discord has been revamped and there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on. And some, I think it was Adam reposted the picture of you as Dan the Stable Boy, if you remember that.
Oh God, yeah.
So
wow.
that was a
sight for sore eyes.
It was. My life was improved by being reminded that was a thing.
As a brief aside, again, I hate to kind of keep jumping in with all these breaking the fourth wall and kind of meta comments. I'm 99% sure by the end of this podcast, my fence will have blown down.
Is it that bad?
It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm actually slightly concerned.
I'm going to just go on earth.nullschool.net a second. This is my favourite website where I can see wind speeds. I was actually, because of the bot that I built, Planet Snaps, I could see that there was a big cyclone that was heading towards the UK. But I can also have a look at what the wind speed is in different parts of the UK. And it is currently about 56 kilometres per hour in Exeter. So
yeah, is that the gust as well?
No, that's the mean wind speed. I think
because these gusts are strong.
Yep. Because I remember I was back home over the weekend, which we'll get to in a second, I'm sure. And Dad was amazed at the forecast because obviously, being in the Navy, he as an officer, he was very interested in the forecast at any given time. So he kind of got this internal database of how much is a lot of wind and how much is a lot of gusting. And he was quite surprised at how strong it was. 49 knots is what the BBC's showing. So that's quite something. That's a lot. I actually went for a run yesterday and I was being battered around by the wind. It makes, when you're as big as I am, tall, it's quite, you'd find it not quite so bad, but I'm like a sail because I'm quite tall and broad, so I'm just
you suddenly do a Mary Poppins and fly off somewhere.
Do you ever think about what happened to those nannies in Mary Poppins? Do you remember how all the nannies at the start, when the Banks family opens up, there's a thing we're looking for nannies. They all died, presumably.
Yeah.
All these little old ladies just turning end over end as they're blown through the streets of London. No way did they survive.
I think it's an extended metaphor for current government policy on winter fuel allowance.
Oh, here we go.
And
someone's been taking a screenwriting course, I see.
Yeah. They cut it and they're like, well, we need to kill them off to make a point. Yeah. Let's just blow them away.
And there was a Disney.
They were blown away by these prices.
There was a Disney exec with cigar in hand. We're gonna lose plot thread. We're gonna take out the ladies. I love that. That's one of my favourite stock characters, like generic early 20th century American businessman, pinstripe suit, large cigar, talks out of one side of his mouth with the other side clamped shut.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
You're good, kid, real good, but as long as I'm around, you'll always be second best, see?
I wanted pictures of Spider-Man! Actually, that reminds me, have you seen Into the Spider-Verse yet?
I've seen the trailer, but I haven't actually seen the film.
I've seen the trailer and it looks amazing, and I feel terrible.
It does look quite cool.
I really want to see it because it's probably going to win the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. And
well, we will be having a discussion about a current film later on.
We will,
if I'm not mistaken.
We will, so
because we both forward thinking.
We both saw the same thing, and I have mixed feelings about it. I've got quite complex feelings, but they're not so much in relation to the film. We'll end up talking about that. So the other thing, just before we move on to sort of the more generic discussion, because there have been a few interesting things that have been happening recently. Something which is propped up on this is, do you know what the word... Oh, God, sorry. Ugh.
No, I'm not familiar with that one, I'm afraid. How do you spell it?
I shouldn't have been drinking Coke before this. Do you know what the name, the word demonym means?
As in ONYMN.
Demonym. DEMONYM.
No?
I have to admit, it was a new one to me. It is the word that identifies residents or natives of a particular place. So, we are British or English. And so that's quite interesting that it included that if you're from this place, then you're Vallesano. Whereas, I don't know, there's like a huge article on like demonyms from different places, because presumably there's different ways of doing it. Like, because if you're from Wales, you are Welsh, but I think you're technically also Walian.
Amazing.
I think that's right. You're Walian. I was talking to David Davis about this. Yes, a person from Wales, which was a completely new word to me up until very recently. And
that's very interesting. I like that.
Yeah, right. Because this article just has, if you go on the demonym Wikipedia article, there's loads of breaking it down by country or continent, country, state, city,
and it's organised by like suffix, right?
Yeah,
so it's got there. Yeah, that's cool.
So if you're Philistia, you're a Philistine, which is a classic like biblical example. What's some interesting ones? I'm gonna have to. Oh my god! Well, if you're from Zamboanga City, which is in the Philippines, I totally knew off the top of my head. You are a member of the Zamboangueño people. That's quite a fun one.
From Latin or Latinization, Exeter, Exonian.
Yes, of course.
Is on here. Cambridge, Cambridgian.
Or yeah, because Cantab or tab is like the unofficial way of referring to someone. What else have we got? There's going to be some interesting ones.
Very cool. Wolverhampton is Wolfrunian.
Ooh. Well, I thought it might just be Wolf. Like, because like the football team are the Wolves. It'd be just quite cool if I'm a wolf from Wolverhampton. Yeah.
Oh, so Newcastle, from the Latin novum castrum, is Novocastrian.
Novocastrian.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. This is way more interesting than the place in Spain. This is probably one of the more interesting articles I think I've ever been on, actually, on Wikipedia.
This is very cool.
Oh wow! If you're from Corfu, you're a Corfiot.
Eot, you don't hear that, do you?
If you're from Chios, which is presumably another Greek island, you're a Chiot. Corfu, you're a Corfiot. If you're from Cyprus,
Cypriot. Yeah.
Or apparently before 1960, you were Cyprian. So that's interesting. When Cyprus became independent, it was when Cyprus became independent.
Oh, I see.
And if you're from Fanar, which is a place, a place within Istanbul, from the looks of things, if you're from Fanar, you're Fanariot. Fanaria? I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. This is really cool.
This is very cool.
Of course, one that I would have known that was very like Onion is another one that you see. If you're from Bath, you're a Bathonian.
Or Bristolian.
Yep. Although that's actually not on here. That's fun. If you're from Truro, you're a Truronian, which sounds like a dog. Truronian.
Oh, Bristolians there under states, provinces, countries and cities. Counties and cities.
Oh, I'm going down by the suffix.
At the moment. Yeah, it's under Ian.
Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, this is Onian as opposed to Ian.
Yeah.
I see.
Bristolian.
So some of them are just weird. Like if you're from Naples, you're a Neapolitan. Oh, I didn't know that. If you're from Guernsey, you're a Sarnian. Sounds like you're a sandwich.
Yeah.
I guess that's from the Latin name for the island. And if you're from Shropshire, you're a Salopian, which I did know because of Pixel Girl.
This is quite cool, isn't it? Well done, Wikipedia. Very interesting.
Oh, that's cool. That demonyms are sometimes constructed with a prefix.
Ooh.
So if you're from Lesotho, you're Mosotho. And if you're from Kiribati, you are I Kiribati. If you're from Vanuatu, you're Ni Vanuatu. Or you are
cool.
Ni Vanuatu.
Yeah.
This is... and then, wow, there's going to be a lot of non-standard ones here. Like, if you're from North Carolina, apparently you're a Tar Heel. Not heard that one before.
Demonym. That's such a cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know what? We've actually fulfilled the Wikipedia requirement for this podcast.
I think so.
So the cool thing which has been happening to me over the past couple of days is I was in Bristol. I recorded 2 videos with Hat Films, which is a favourite channel of ours. I helped out. Well, actually, I designed and helped build the torture device used in Trot's birthday video.
Yes, I saw that one yesterday.
The Wheel of Misfortune, which was a lot of fun to do. If you haven't seen it, I'll include a link in the description. But then arguably more cool for me was that I got to do a game of Worms Revolution, which is the version that the Hat Films guys haven't played since, I think it was 2013 or something. And we were just like, yeah, balls to it. Let's just play Worms. And it was amazing. I got to see a Chris Trot error in real life. Well, I wasn't in the same room, but I got to see it happen live. And I realised that actually it's very difficult to do a super sheep properly. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then
that is cool.
Hopefully I'm going to be doing some streaming with them, actually, when Civ 6 Gathering Storm comes out. So Gathering Storm is the new expansion, which has it's basically... about half of it is climate change. It's the fact that they introduce a mechanic where if you have fuel, so that's coal, oil, I don't know if they're introducing any other ones, basically you use up fuel as you build stuff, and you accumulate greenhouse gases as a result of burning that fuel in the atmosphere. And the more you burn, the more effects you start noticing, like an increased chance of extreme events like hurricanes and floods, rising sea levels, reclaiming bits of the land. It's very cool. So, but I said to Lewis when I was last there about how, would you like me to do something with this? And he was like, well, yeah, would you like to stream with us? So fingers crossed, I might be doing a stream. It might even be this Monday, although I don't think the game's out this Monday. I think it might be the following week, which is really cool. I am almost becoming a professional streamer at this point,
that's quite exciting.
Yeah,
gosh,
very weird. And then also maybe doing some stuff to do with Warhammer with them. We'll have to see. But I also, when I was in Bristol, I gave a talk at the University of Bristol. In which I convinced half the audience, including the person who invited me, that I was really weird. And I got to meet up with some people. We got to meet up with Adam, who was there with Cameron, who was actually doing Caledonian dancing, of all things. Long-term members of the community. He was out Caledonian dancing and decided to come join us in the pub.
Fair enough.
So that was really, really fun. And also a shout-out to, I think we have mentioned it on the podcast before, but Danvi, the patron saint of the Wikicast, and my personal sugar daddy, and Adam do a podcast called Sparks and Quarks, which is a very good listen, and I'd highly recommend it. I just listened to an episode there. Danvi is very passionately talking about a battery, which seems to be half the episodes, that converts carbon dioxide into baking soda and electricity. So cool. So very, very cool. So that's been my life. What have you been up to, Daniel? I barely heard from you.
Well, God, it's been pretty busy. Final term in final year, so naturally things are hotting up rather a lot. It's kind of been same old though. I mean, singing left, right, and centre. Dissertation's quite exciting. I had a bit of a breakthrough the other week. You might have seen on Twitter actually. I've come across the poet and priest R.S. Thomas, who's going to provide me with quite a handy insight into what I'm going to be saying in my dissertation, which is exciting. I have a very, very busy Sunday ahead of me with some quite spectacular music. In fact, it will be making an appearance on my choral piece of the week.
Oh,
which I'll be telling you about later. One thing that you did make me think of though, you mentioned Worms and Civ 6, and I thought I'd chime in on my the game that I've been playing in my house with James, my housemate.
Oh yeah.
As a kind of stress relief, kind of just an easygoing, nice little thing to do. It started with Lego Harry Potter, the complete collection, which was massively discounted on the PlayStation store, which was amazing. So we've been playing quite a lot of that, and that's been hilariously funny. But recently we've discovered this brilliant game that I saw the YouTuber Jesse Cox and Wow Crendor were playing a game called Kingdom. Now, the single-player version of this game is called Kingdom New Lands, and then they released in November last year Kingdom's Two Crowns, which is the same game, but
yeah, I've heard about
a
this.
multiplayer.
Yeah,
it's absolutely brilliant. It's really fun, and it's super easygoing. It's very relaxing. The art style I love. It's this pixel kind of vibe. It comes under the popular user-defined tags on Steam are strategy, pixel graphics, survival, indie, 2D. But where is it? In Kingdom Two Crowns, players must work in the brand new solo or co-op campaign mode to build their kingdom and secure it from the threat of the Greed, which are these people who attack at night. Experience new technology, units, enemies, mounts, but it's really cool. So you build your way up through. You start building really, really kind of rudimentary wooden structures. And then you might come across a stone mine, and if you invest some coins into that, you can start building out of stone and then brick, and there's all these and then you can find all these It's very, very, it's effectively a point and click, because you click to spend coins in things, and you move around with your character, and that's basically all you can do. But it's really cathartic and fun and terrifying at times, because much like with, what was the game, that other kind of 3D cube-like world builder that we played?
Minecraft? Do you mean?
No, the dragons and castles and dragons and
Kingdoms
castles.
And Castles.
There you go, yeah, that one. It's kind of like a 2D version of that almost. But it's excellent. I can highly recommend it. The single player is meant to be brilliant. In fact, you can get it on iOS and Android. So I've had it on my phone during any kind of particularly boring guest sermons. It's quite nice just to nip in and check the kingdom's doing all right. But the multiplayer is really, really good fun. And that's been taking up quite a bit of our evenings.
I've got to say, I'm really looking forward to actually doing a bit more gaming over the next couple of months. I really want to dedicate time to, just to make time for it. Because when I've made time recently, I've been trying to get better at Civ, basically, in anticipation of the new expansion coming out. I thought I'd dedicate some hours to it and, put some... And what I found is that I've actually just been more relaxed. Just dedicating a couple of hours, even if it's just once a week, it just... I don't know. I feel like I'm basically reminding myself that I do actually need to make time for play as an adult, which is, of course, why games are important. But I have to admit, I've heard a lot of good things about that game. I know that Tom Clark from the Oxcast plays that. The other thing which I bought but I haven't played yet is Stellaris, which is like space civilization, effectively. But instead of cities, you're controlling planets. And I'm looking forward to playing some of that when I get the chance. But yeah, I played my first VR experience. I played on I went to Hannah Witton's house last weekend and played on Beat Saber. Have you seen Beat Saber?
Oh yes, I have. Yeah,
it's really fun. I was sort of wondering if, I don't know, should I invest in a VR rig, because this is really good, but I don't know, it is several £100s, and at the moment,
and you need a good amount of space and probably a dedicated,
because
dedicated zone.
At the moment, I don't really have enough room in my office to play. I suppose I could, but it's not really big enough. Whereas if I was to play downstairs, I don't have a console. And if I was to buy a console at this point, I would definitely get a Switch, because it's just so versatile. So yeah. Oh, I don't know, man. Why do things have to cost money? It's just sucks.
I had to pay bills yesterday, and that's always pretty crushing, especially given that we're coming out of we're coming out the tail end of winter, really. So we've had all the heating, it's always the most expensive gas bill, because You're just trying to stay warm, you know.
God, yeah. The heating in our house isn't exactly the best. We have the Grand Canyon that runs underneath the door going into our kitchen. So just as soon as the house gets warm, it's just pissing out all of that warm air into the porch kind of area, which isn't. Yeah. I'm not looking forward to getting our heating bill.
You need to get one of those old door stops. You know, the things that you like your grandparents always used to have in a house, which was just like this big
like the
noodly cushion
kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah, that you'd put in front of the door.
Yeah, we probably should. I mean, we put a towel down and that kind of works. Something's just popped up on my monitor, which has reminded me. On the subject of gaming, have you seen Apex Legends?
I've heard of it. I recognise the name.
It's a new kind of battle royale game, and I have to admit, it didn't really grab my attention very much. I know that basically everyone on Twitch and YouTube is playing it at the moment because it's the new big thing. Yeah. I didn't realise it was free.
Oh, really?
Now that's actually kind of tempting. Because I know that, basically a lot of the people in my YouTube network, standard, like I had a message from, who was it? I think it was Tierzu, was saying, I'm playing Apex Legends with, I think it was, I can't remember who it was another YouTube channel. And they were like, anyone want to join in? And I was like, if I could afford the game, maybe I would. But now... So maybe, I mean, generally, I'm also bringing that up because on the Discord, there has been talk of doing some gaming in the community, and I'd be really up for doing some casual gaming with people. Like, people have suggested maybe Trouble in Terrorist Town or prop hunts in the community.
Classic,
so I feel like, go and check out the Discord, by the way, guys, because it's a really nice place to be at the moment, actually. I'm just sort of scrolling through now. And perhaps we could do some gaming in the future, seeing as that's something which Dan and I and seemingly the community have in common. So... we could do a bit of that.
Well, especially given the dangerous news that if I'm not mistaken, I think it might actually be today. Oh no, I'm all right. World of Warcraft Classic comes out this year.
No. No!
Oh God! I'm so excited. Release date. Let's see if I can find it. Summer 2019.
Okay, so you've got a bit of productivity left this year before it ruins your life.
Yeah. But it's going to apparently. Can't wait. There was a trailer released for it, and it does just look cool. And on the kind of forums and website, they do dev posts of like how it's going and how they've had to kind of redo a load of code because the game has changed so much. They've got to kind of code the new game back into an old template, and it's very exciting.
Wow. Okay, well, anyway, shall we have done ourselves. We've been ticking all the Wikicast boxes this week of going on a million different tangents.
That's true.
We talked about gaming. If you're interested in gaming, go and have a look on the Discord. In fact, if you're not interested in gaming, join on the Discord, which means that there should be 7 billion people on there the next time I check. So I believe, Dan, it's time for you to talk about your choral piece of the week.
Ooh, yes. Here we go. And this will be my piece of the week. Drum roll, please.
Right, hit me with it.
Right, so this Sunday morning at Exeter Cathedral, we're doing a rather exciting mass setting, which I have come across the name of before, but I don't think I'd actually listened to. Anyway, it's a piece by Roxana Panufnik. So she is the great granddaughter or granddaughter of another famous Panufnik. Actually, I'm going to do a quick tactical Google here. Andrzej Panufnik was a Polish composer and conductor. He became established as one of the leading Polish composers, and as a conductor he was instrumental in the re-establishment of the Warsaw Philharmonic after World War II. He defected to the UK in 1954, took up British citizenship, and he became chief conductor of the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. And then he just composed for the rest of his life. Anyway,
I've heard of Roxana. I haven't heard of him. So
yeah, she's the daughter of the composer and conductor. This guy. Anyway, she wrote this mass called the Westminster Mass.
Now that is a piece of music. I've heard that live. Yeah.
Now we're doing it on Sunday, and oh my good lord, it is exciting. It's just it's madness. It really is madness. The madness is added to in quite a hilarious way when you follow along with the score. There was no real kind of proofreading of the score. it seems. No one had kind of checked it for just kind of formatting errors or whatever. So to actually navigate this score is an absolute nightmare. But if I'm going to recommend two movements in particular, I will have to recommend the Sanctus and Benedictus first, because it's shorter than the Gloria, and it's just so much fun. It's like this incredible mashup of the Dove Missa Brevis, the Vierne in its loudness. It's just so cool. And then the Gloria, and if you listen to the Gloria, you need to wait until the last about 40 seconds of the entire track when you hear the final chord on Amen, when it's both major and minor at the same time, because she can't make up her mind. It's just brilliant. Anyway, we're doing that on Sunday morning. It's going to be a tremendous amount of fun. And then to follow that, even song in the afternoon, Walton Chichester service and Ascribe unto the Lord.
Oh, what a banging service.
It's a banging service, yeah.
I've got to say,
so that's quite exciting.
I've heard the Westminster live, and it was in Exeter Cathedral, and I remember thinking, it doesn't sound pretty, but this is like tickling the part of my brain, like the kind of academic music part of my brain, where I'm like, I can see that, I can hear that this is clever, and like I want to see where this is going, but it's a hard listen. I feel like it's not
a hard listen. It's quite a hard sing, to be fair.
Yeah, it sounded crunchy as all hell. I think I was talking to Rose about this when I think she partly sang it, and she was like, "Yeah, it was very, very hard." Yeah,
I've been looking at it for like the past week and a bit to make sure that I'm actually some use on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But it's a tremendous amount of fun, and I think it's brilliant. So yes, the Westminster Mass by Roxana Panufnik.
I'm going to just jump in here, because there was something which is I found. Actually, we will get onto where we both found this in not very long, because I found a piece of music by Messiaen. I'm never entirely sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. Messiaen. Let's go with that. Called in English, it's Jesus Accepts the Suffering. The original title is Jesus Accepte la Souffrance. And it is basically, so it's about Jesus being on the cross and accepting like the pain of it, and on behalf of all of humankind. And it is super dark and powerful organ music. It's used in a film which we will talk about in just a second, but I'd highly recommend, if you like really dark kind of, it's not grimy, it's just tonally so like full of dread.
This is from his La Nativité. Yeah. So the assistant director of music at Exeter Cathedral, Tim Parsons, recently gave a concert off this piece. He played the entire La Nativité. Yeah. It's very cool. It's very cool.
This is the 7th movement, so I have no idea how many movements there are. Oh, apparently there are 9 movements in total. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that as my extra little piece that I throw in from time to time. Anyway, shall we talk about the movie that I got this from in Critics Corner?
Okay, let's go. Simon and I, in a weird case of foresight and forward planning, we decided to try and actually go and see a film.
But we would both go and see it.
That we'd both go and see, yeah. Sadly, in different parts of the country. However, it has been seen that we can now both talk about something that we've seen together, which is quite good for a podcast.
Yes.
This film is The Favourite, starring Olivia Colman and Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz. Look, it's interesting. I think it's fair to say that it's a pretty interesting film. I think we should launch in with just initial. What would you rate it? Let's say now what you would give it as a star, and then we'll explain why. Okay, so we're going to go for stars out of 5. I'm going to go with, I would give it 4 stars.
I would give it 4.5 stars.
Oh, this is the first time where you thought it was better. Or you've given it a higher rating than I have.
I know, it's an unusual thing. I have mixed feelings about the experience of watching the film, but I think the film itself was really quite good.
Yes.
Right, so perhaps you should explain to the audience, what is The Favourite about, Dan?
Okay, so fortunately I've got a lovely little snippet here from The Guardian. it's directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who's a Greek director, and it's a tragicomedy set in the court of Queen Anne, and it's about this kind of well, the Guardian's going to do better than me. A tragicomic tale of personal and political jealousy and intrigue in 18th century England. Set in the court of Queen Anne, the last of the Stuart monarchs, it balances foreign wars with homegrown tussles in an often uproarious and occasionally alarming fashion. There's this weird, overarching kind of crunching threat of war in France, whether they kind of push on and decimate, or they sign a treaty for peace. And then this weird kind of power play and love triangle between Olivia Colman's Queen Anne, Rachel Weisz's Lady Sarah Churchill, who's kind of like the Queen's advisor, and it's made pretty clear from the offset that Lady Churchill basically controls the Queen. The Queen doesn't really know what she's doing. She's just kind of, overweight, depressed, riddled with gout, and plagued by suicidal thoughts. It's a really, really fascinating performance. I think Olivia Colman's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then to throw in a bit of throw a spanner in the works, if you like, into this kind of this working, for all of its faults, a system that works. Emma Stone's character Abigail, who is the Lady Churchill's penniless cousin, arrives to be like a maid, and Abigail and the Queen get very close, and suddenly you realise that Abigail's quite a lot stronger than Lady Churchill originally anticipated, and there's this weird play of kind of, yeah. Most interesting than that, because this is one of the criticisms I had when I came out of the film, is I walked out and wasn't sure whether I liked it or not. I think that's always a really good sign in a film. If you're not immediately bowled over with, yes, I thought that was excellent, or no, I thought it was rubbish. It's more intriguing when you've got something that you think, oh, was it both? Was it both really good and really bad? I don't know, because it makes you think. I think that the story itself is very hard to pin down, because one of the first things I thought when I came out of the film was it too long? I thought it might have been, I thought it went on for a bit, but then I thought, well, actually, that's probably not true. I'm trying to impose my idea of a kind of a more formulaic 3-act narrative to a film that does not do that. Hence its use of tableau and, 1, 2, 3. You have these kind of this episodic chapter-like flicking through of a black screen with numbers on to kind of to imply a progression and give you a sense of time. On top of that, with the absence of any clear structured narrative, if you like, the cinematography itself is really, really unusual.
It's very interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it absolutely works. You get these incredibly wide, almost kind of fish-eyed GoPro images, maybe sitting in the middle of a corridor or in the corner of the kitchen, and there's just so much on the screen, and it's all kind of bloomed and distorted.
And also a huge, I didn't count how many times they used it. The number of times they used a 180-degree pan with a fisheye lens, which was, I think, because I was just trying to find out, where did they film? They actually filmed it in one of the royal palaces, in Hatfield House in Hertfordshire, and there was another royal house, I think, that they I don't know. Okay, yeah, Hatfield House. I think that was where I was thinking. So they were filming on location, on period appropriate location. And I think what they were trying to do with the fact that they were using a fisheye lens and trying to show with a 180-degree pan, they were trying to show how much they had, the fact they were there. But I thought it was a really interesting use of quite modern cinematography techniques that felt very modern, very David Fincher kind of level. In a film that was so clearly set in the period. And the thing, I feel like the first thing we should say is that the production value, like the actual production itself, is astoundingly high. Like, it felt absolutely so. I mean, the music, the soundtrack's great. It's all period appropriate stuff, or just after the period, because it's set an annoying time in music history before a lot of the greats have been born. So the music's fantastic. The costumes are fantastic. The the set design, such as it is, I mean, it's taking place in a historical building, was fantastic. And also, if we're on the subject of stuff that was great in the film, I feel like all three lead performances were fantastic.
Yeah, they really were. I think too, there's a lovely sentence just in terms of how much the soundtrack and cinematography adds to the actual effect of seeing the film. A soundtrack that lurches from the lush strains of Handel, Purcell and Vivaldi to the experimental edginess of Anna Meredith via Elton John's harpsichord adds to the off-kilter atmosphere, keeping the audience on their toes, alert, unsettled and hugely entertained. And that's the thing. There are moments of... It's a true kind of black comedy performance from everyone, because you have these moments that are laugh out loud funny, mixed with really kind of gut-wrenchingly tragic, sad, moments that might only last for a couple of seconds. And it's incredibly well balanced for something that is, as Mark Kermode describes, as so off-kilter. I think that's why it works, because emotionally, if you sit down and you imagine your emotions sitting on some kind of a dial and the needle is very much neutral, pointing kind of due north, throughout the film, every time that you start to drift to a kind of like a true west, you'll then be immediately thrown to a true east at the same time, and then back. And for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction emotionally, which is why the soundtrack and the cinematography and the kind of the performances that seem so. It's not like you're not going to see, like, you're not watching a period drama, because the acting is modern, is contemporary. A lot of the language is that as well.
Did you think of a particular someone, by the way, when one of the characters sits down to tries to write a letter and has several attempts at writing a letter, and one of the attempts just sits down and goes, "Dear,"
Yeah,
and then just
I did actually.
Scrunches it up and throws it. Yeah. And I was like, a Pixel guy and I looked at each other and we were like, "Was that?" Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. What I feel like you're exactly right in that, like, it's perfectly balanced. It was that fascinating blend of period and modern in the way that some of the dialogue actually felt very period. In particular, I think Nicholas Holt's character of Hardy, I think it was the Prime Minister. It feels very period, but then you just get these interjections that feel so incredibly modern. Mostly swearing, it's got to be said. But I feel like the impression that I got from the film overall was that it was a filmmaker, the director, who was so completely in control of their craft, like so utterly confident in what they were doing, that they were making these big, broad stylistic brushstrokes with the cinematography, with the way that they used and manipulated music, and also thematically. I felt the ending is quite beautiful, actually. It's quite an unusual ending, but again, it felt like a filmmaker who'd like finished it and then walked away with this, when that thing where you assemble a block of dominoes or something into a pyramid, and you take your hands off and you walk away, and you know that you've done it. I feel like that's how the director was when finishing the film, which is my problem with the film, because Yorgos Lanthimos, who directed it, 2 feature films before, because there was The Killing of a Sacred Deer that he did the previous year. The film that he did before that was The Lobster, which I hate with a passion that I've never felt for a film before. It is a film that made me feel physically sick. And all I could think when I started enjoying The Favourite was, why couldn't he have done this last time? Why did you have to subject me to that awful experience where I thought I was going to be sick? And like, you could have done this. You're not that different in where you are in your career. You've just made this film which has been nominated for like 10 Oscars. Why couldn't you have just done that?
I haven't seen The Lobster, nor have I seen The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I desperately want to now.
It's different from this. Say that.
Yeah. it's just interesting, isn't it? I think it's such a at a time when I think a lot of people are getting very sick of the rehashing of classic fairy tales, and we've been through the sci-fi phase again, where everyone's shooting stupid shit in space, and even now I think we're probably this will herald a kind of costume dramas are going to be reborn. You know, there was Outlaw King on Netflix starring Chris Pine that did very well. There's Mary Queen of Scots, which is out at the same time as this The Favourite. I think we'll see kind of the period costume drama is going to be reborn again. And I'm okay with that if enough artistic kind of ingenuity and creativity and originality is present, like it is in this film, in The Favourite.
Yeah, this feels like, in a way, it kind of felt like an art house film that just so happened to get a big, broad release.
Yeah. See, I'm really glad I went and saw it in the Picture House in Exeter.
Which would have been perfect.
So I
can imagine.
I had a drink beforehand, sat and watched it, and then kind of had like a long kind of walk home to think about it. It was perfect. I think this is actually maybe this is quite an interesting point. I wonder if how much my perception of the film would have been altered had I gone to see it in view, like IMAX, you know?
Yeah, because I saw it at the Empire Cinema just down the road, so it like the exact opposite end of the spectrum to what you had, and I feel like you definitely had a better viewing experience.
Yeah.
But we still seem to have come with the same takeaways from the film.
Yes.
So perhaps in that sense, you know, it's you could argue that it doesn't matter. In a way, actually, it was quite funny when I went to see this. I sat down, put my drink down, and told Pixel, "Hang on, I'm just going to pop to the loo before we go, before the film starts." And I came back, and as I was walking back down the corridor past all these screens, I heard the Pearl and Dean theme that we've heard already in this podcast now 6 times.
Yeah.
Like, it was amazing. Somehow the screening synced up. It was like ba 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 da ba 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 da ba da ba ba, and it felt like I was walking through corporate filmmaking. Like, literally, it could not have been more corporate filmmaking in a big multiplex cinema. Pearl and Dean blaring. I'd watched the trailer for How to Train Your Dragon 3 about 8 times because we arrived at the cinema an hour early because Pixel Girl got the time of the film wrong, so we just sat there watching trailers for an hour. It could not have been more corporate Hollywood, and yet I still really enjoyed it in the same way you did. So perhaps that does indicate, because my gut instinct is to say that it did affect your viewing experience, but clearly we basically had the same experience.
Yes, yeah.
The other thing which I'd like to sort of mention is, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get flack for this or not, was I felt a little bit uncomfortable with how the film used Emma Stone's body. And by what I mean by that,
like, you only get the nude reveal at a given point.
Yeah, so there were 2 scenes before. There's a particular dramatic scene which we won't ruin the film by saying it's quite a key sort of event that is revealed. They get these 2 scenes beforehand where there are a lot of naked female bodies around Emma Stone, and she's sort of covering herself up, and you know,
or she happens to be covered by something else, by the placement of an object.
And it very much feels like the intention is to highlight that she isn't naked on screen while everyone else is, and it happens once and it happens again, and then the 3rd time round there's this, it's a really beautiful shot actually of another character walks towards a bed with a light, and out of the gloom, out of the darkness, this orange, very warmly illuminated Emma Stone is there with one breast out. And it very much felt like it was kind of offering up her body on a platter to the male gaze. It was like her body was a plot device. And I felt like if it was just perhaps once they'd had the one scene before where she wasn't visibly naked and then this happened, perhaps I wouldn't have noticed it. Yeah. But by the rule of 3s, it felt very deliberate. And it felt like it had basically used her body as, like a commodity. Like in the same way that you would invest in a big special effects shot that to sell a moment, or a big musical cue. It just, I don't know. And I can't tell whether it is sort of me telling Emma Stone what she should or shouldn't be doing with her body, which of course is none of my business. But the fact that it was written into the script, and the fact that, as far as I know, she's not done any nude scenes before. I'm not the kind of person on the internet who knows exactly which actor's been naked on screen before or not.
Yeah.
But Do you know what I mean? It felt like she was neat.
Yeah, I think there's an absolute deliberate choice in revealing her at that time in that way, to almost commodify her. I think that was probably a choice because both Lady Churchill and Abigail are, in a sense, commodified, be it for their mind or their body. I think it worked. I didn't feel uncomfortable with it. I think the effect was achieved because it made everyone think at that moment, oh, this is why she's now fully nude, because she hasn't been before, and it's meant to be this big kind of, oh wow, that's it. You know, it's captivating and striking in both a kind of filmic literary sense within the narrative, but then also in a more meta sense, because you're like, oh, now she's actually nude, and you're thinking that it's like that whole alienation effect that we spoke about with Kafka's Metamorphosis. This idea to make you think about something that you would only be aware of knowing that you're watching a film. You're thinking of something or reacting to something that isn't actually in terms of the narrative. You're like, oh, this is a wider, just like, oh, well, look, she's nude now. That has nothing to do with the film, really. It's what you're seeing. But then you are also realizing why they've done it as a layer within the story. I didn't feel uncomfortable. I thought the effect was achieved, but I'd be curious to know how there must be interviews with Emma Stone where she's talking about like what that was like, and for all we know, it's her choice. Maybe she was meant to be nude from the very beginning, and she said, oh, maybe it would be better if we did this one big reveal. I
feel like that's possibly the best case scenario, and I'm still a bit confused about how I feel about this, and also how I feel about this. Like, I'd be interested to get some readers' comments. If you've seen The Favourite, if you have any thoughts on this, do email in spongyelectric@gmail.com.
If you're Emma Stone and you've got some thoughts,
do let us know.
Email in.
It's none of our business what you do with your body, but I'd be interested to know why it was done in this way, basically. And one final thought on the film, which occurred to me after, like, about a couple of days afterwards. Does this film pass the inverse Bechdel test? So you know how the Bechdel test is, you have to have a film with two female characters and they have to have a conversation that is not about a man. Right. I'm trying to think about whether there's a conversation in this film which happens between two male characters which isn't about a girl. The only thing I can possibly think of is possibly when the two... there's the Whig politician and the Tory politician are talking about the war, but I can't remember if that was a conversation where it was just those two. Because obviously, like, the thing with this film is there are three leads; they're all female, and you know they're not all just obsessed with men. As a matter of fact, kind of the opposite. But so in that sense, you know, it's quite unusual. But it occurred to me that perhaps this film actually doesn't pass the inverse Bechdel test, which I'm not saying that is a bad thing at all. I just thought it was quite an interesting thought experiment.
It'd be interesting to look at the script. I think I'd love to see the film again just because there is so much to take in. For instance, one of the things that I thought, well, a couple of days after having seen it, I was interested to see. I'd love to see it again and see if there are any other interest in any other. Oh my god! I think I'm having a stroke. Bear with me. If there are any other instances where you hear that kind of, you know, the frenzied scratching from the rabbits at the end of the film. At that kind of that fade out, and you hear that. I'd love to hear and see whether there is another moment where that scratching occurs in the film, because I bet there is. I bet if you listen, you'll hear that as a motif before, which is what makes that end scene so, you know, there must be something subconsciously you're like, I've heard that before, that's why they're ending with it, you know. I'd love to see where they've put it in, and yeah, I would happily see it again. It's one of those films where it's like reading a Where's Wally book. You could read a Where's Wally book and then pick it up the following week and go again, because your mind just can't possibly remember the sheer amount of stuff, or the really intricate drawings and paintings that they often have on the ceilings of dentists.
Oh yeah.
Just because there's so much to take in, it's like one of those there's a kind of visual, emotional, cognitive feast every frame.
A feast for the senses. That's the thing
Absolutely.
they'll put on the poster. The Wikicast. A feast for the senses. 4.5. Well, by our average, 4.25 stars.
4.5/4 stars.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, well, there we go. That was our thoughts on the favourite. Do let us know if you have any separate thoughts, separate to our own. Hopefully you have separate thoughts to our own thoughts. Otherwise, I pity you poor bastards. I would just like to, before we move on to the next corner, because we are going to have to move this podcast on relatively briskly. We do both have other things we need to do today. I have two podcast recommendations that I would like to bring to the floor. We've already mentioned Sparks and Quarks earlier. I found two shows. First of all is Imaginary Worlds, which is a show about half-hour episodes where they take an imaginary world or an imaginary concept. So I've listened to ones that were on Magic the Gathering, on the politics of the Expanse, on the Islamic influence on the Book of June, on the idea of living in space and on rotating space stations. Jesus.
Oh, sorry.
And
Thanks.
they're just very interesting, well-made half-hour shows. If you're interested in sci-fi, definitely check them out. And they've done, D&D and fantasy and all these kind of things. I think the tagline is like, it's about imagined worlds, why we create them, and why we suspend our disbelief.
Yeah.
Which I just think is a really interesting idea. And then the other show I'd like to quickly recommend is 20,000 Hertz, which is about sound design. And so there have been episodes on Siri, how they first designed Siri, about the THX deep tone, the thing that plays at the start of the movie. It's like, that's my impression of it. That's going to be memed, I'm sure. And what else? Game design, like 8-bit game design. Basically, if you're interested in sound, because as soon as I saw it as that it was a thing, I was like, yes. Jesus, you're right.
Yeah, sorry, I think I'm just having a mild allergic reaction to something. Go on, I am listening.
Apparently, these podcasts, you really don't like them.
Apparently.
So if you're interested in sound design, I would highly recommend it. I think it's a really, really interesting show, both of them. So I'll put links to both of them in the show notes. And we probably should move on to Patreon corner.
I believe so. And before we do that, I'm going to throw in one of my own podcast recommendations.
I'll do what you were doing whilst you do this.
Cheers, thanks very much. It's available on BBC Radio 4. It's called Thinking Aloud. That's aloud spelled ALLOWED. The description is new research on how society works, and it's kind of like a cross between a philosophy come social commentary. They feature a different either influential key kind of figure within a given movement or concept that is associated with such a figure. So cheers.
Sorry.
There was there's a very long back catalogue now. I don't know when they did a most recent episode, but I listened to one on, it's called A Special Programme on Pierre Bourdieu, and he's quite an interesting guy. It's very interesting. It's like In Our Time, basically, but a little bit more niche. But
on a specific person, and is it a bit more structured? And
within a given field, and it's got a different. They feature 3 different kind of academics, if you like, but usually of differing levels. So one was a PhD student, one was a professor, one was, I don't know, somebody else, a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker. But it was it's really interesting. It's very, very good. If you like In Our Time, you'll like Thinking Aloud.
That will also be in the show notes. Right, now let's actually go and thank the people that make this podcast possible. Top lad. Do you want to kick off this section?
Sure.
Thor.
Sure.
God of blunder.
Zug. Work. So the World of Warcraft reference. Fucking nerd. It's that time again, Patreon Corner. This is where we say a massive thank you to our supporters on Patreon, specifically with reference to our top lads who donate a whopping $5 a month to help us do this thing, which is the Wikicast. That includes our hosting.
We do sometimes actually make episodes. I do feel bad.
We do.
These people are like, yeah, we'll give you money. Make content for me. And we're like, yeah, we'll get round to it at some point.
Yeah, we will. We promise we will. It includes our hosting, it includes our donation to the Wikimedia Foundation, a multitude of other sins as well, including helping us with merch when that was a thing. it's.
I also have some ideas for further use of the money after we finish recording the episode. I'll have a chat to you about it, Dan. So we might be able to put something out there in the next week or two, which would be a very exciting way to use this money which you've given us for this god awful podcast. But thank you, because
I'll be seeing you soonish for the Bach B minor mass. The St John Passion.
I should be coming down before then as well to sort of do a fact-finding, working out where to put cameras and talk about mic positionings and things like that.
Okay.
So hopefully I'll be down twice. So we'll be able to...
Because, of course, Mike is scared of heights, so we don't want to put him up too high.
Yes, exactly. But he's used to being low to the ground, bless him.
Yeah.
Also, you still have my chocolate. I haven't forgotten this. You still have my chocolate from Theo Chocolate.
Yeah.
Or have you eaten it?
No.
Have you bloody eaten
I haven't eaten
my
chocolate? I haven't eaten all of it. Anyway, we need to say a massive thing. No, I haven't. I'm joking.
He says, Googling Theo chocolate.
Says, I'm literally composing an email now being like, I need more chocolate. Anyway, a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. I'd like to say a massive thank you to Ben Dover. Well done, Moustache Man. Ben McMurtry and Ben Dent.
I'd like to thank Bryce D. Wilkins, Choco Cat, and Colm Mansfield.
Dan Hanvey, Davy Schram-Vontabell and Eric Davis.
Henry Brewster, Isabel Ostrowski and Jay Wright.
John Mannion, Jonathan Trimble and Geordie Eschendahl.
Kyle Much, Lachlan Woods, Lewis Watson,
Maggie Marut Vakira Punyawat and Matt Maguire,
Omar Miranda, Fee Gascoigne, Rory Healy,
and finally Simon Torseth, Tapio Kirkinen and Whitney Ferries. Thank you so much for all your support. We should be slipping back into a slightly more kind of regimented schedule now.
Obviously Christmas threw us for a loop and
some of us were away for New Year and it's all just a bit mad. But yes, we're very appreciative that you still support. It's a massive help.
Top lad. And we find ourselves in the final corner of this delightful polygon that is this podcast. We're going to be reading some of your correspondence sent to spongyelectric@gmail.com. We do genuinely love to hear from you. And I have a follow-up from the last episode, which we will never speak of ever again, about... the subject line is Chronic Migraine Plagued Reader number 3. Dear Simon and Dan, this is from Finley Robinson. Seriously, you guys have something for collecting people with chronic migraines. I've just listened to you guys get absolutely trashed in the last episode. We said we'd never talk about it. And can relate way too much to the other people who've emailed in about how they suffer with migraines. Unlike the previous people, I wasn't suddenly struck with migraines, but instead by a 14-stone 15-year-old, good God, that's a big chonker, during a game of rugby in October 2015, and the concussion knocked them out. Everything was hunky-dory then, until about a week later when Finley collapsed and spent a week in bed with what can only be described as the worst headache possible. Several visits to neurologists, cognitive rehabilitation therapists, and a few MRI scans later, I was eventually diagnosed with a brain injury, dyslexia, and anxiety, as well as several chronic migraines, which are luckily now better. Glad to hear it. And with now bad headaches being part of daily life and migraines being a presence, but not as bad as they were. I'm currently in the final year of sixth form, and despite this, I've managed to get good grades to have been interviewed for medical school. Oh, wow. If I need to become a neurologist, you can help people with the same conditions as me. But yeah, anyway, you guys have a thing for attracting listeners with chronic migraines. You should probably get tested or something because one more person and we probably have enough for support group. Thanks so much for this rambling mess of a podcast. Finn, aged 18.03 years old. Decimal heresy, the likes of which we have not seen for quite some time.
Outstanding work, Finn. Very good.
I'm not quite sure if it's so much that we have a habit of collecting listeners or readers with migraines as we have a habit of collecting readers with head injuries. I feel like there may be a correlation there.
Between people who listen to this podcast. Yeah. Correlation absolutely does mean causation in this instance.
In that particular instance. Also, Finn writes, P.S. Dan might be pleased to know that I'm doing Latin A-level, which is currently the bane of my life as I have memory problems.
Yeah. God, you poor soul.
Also...
Olim amicus meus ex urbe discedebat, my friend.
PPS, I'm currently writing this at home whilst I'm off school because of migraines and severe dizziness, so that's something, I guess. Also, Team Dog, suck it, Simon.
Nice.
Nice sting in the tail there.
We have another email here. I don't know why I whispered that. That's really odd, wasn't it? We have another email here. It's from Mandalore 1. It says, triggered by Simon, unfortunately not a fanfic. Dear Messrs Moore and Clark, salutations from Sydney. I recently discovered this Porkins of a podcast, beloved though woefully overlooked, thanks to Simon's appearances on Hat Films videos and the 2018. Oh wow, we've got, so this is someone who's new to the podcast since seeing you on the Jingle Jam and Hat Films.
Oh right, Mandalore. Thank you very much for joining us.
Wow, welcome to this place. I feel I must apologise welcome indeed. I feel I must apologise in advance for a short essay / rant triggered by some comments I read in Wikicast.
Sorry, what? A short essay / what?
Rant.
Just rant. A short essay / rant.
Yeah. What?
It's a rant. Ranting.
Yeah. Rant.
It's not ranting.
It can be.
It's not a thing that's like a ran. It's not a ranting. You're ranting.
That's a rant. I rant. I don't rant. I rant. That's so... Ugh, no. I feel I must apologise in advance for a short essay / rant triggered by some comments I read in Wikicast 023, Recession of 1949, a particularly fine episode, especially if they have been already addressed in later episodes and vlogs. I started reading the podcast and vlogs from scratch, so I have a lot of ground to cover yet. My God, you poor soul. Keep fighting the good fight. I've recently begun a PhD in economics with a focus on monetary macroeconomics, economic history and history of economic thought. Different things entirely despite the similarities in name. And was excited to note there was an economic-themed podcast and some vlogs to look forward to. However, upon reaching this episode, I was disappointed as accidentally chartering a bus to Bronson rather than Branson, Missouri. No dice. While both studying and teaching undergraduate economic courses has demonstrated to me that it's not everyone's cup of tea, I feel like it's the pinnacle of heresy for this to be coming up as an entertainment empire featuring rich explorations of choral music and atmospheric physics. I kid. Mostly. Moreover, the talk
are we an
of finance...
entertainment empire in the same way that there's a Lithuanian empire?
Moreover, the talk of finance and stocks as akin to economics during the first 10 minutes is similarly heretical. A rough analogy would be describing oceanography as a subset of atmospheric science. Maybe some things match on the surface, but they are largely dissimilar. Again, apologies for the rant. The rant and salt particular of these issues have been addressed. God, I sounded a bit like Alan Rickman then. Particularly if these issues have been addressed in later episodes. I was simply too triggered. 394. On a more personal note, I would like to express my sincere thanks for the insane banter, which has served as a bright spot.
I think he means an inane banter.
Oh yes, sorry, I just can't read. I'd like to express my sincere thanks for the insane banter, which has served me as I just deliberately did that again. I thought I'd try and get you there. Inane banter, which has served as a bright spot and distraction.
Much like you're hearing right now. This is both insane and inane.
Inane. My mum's passing 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
Oh, no. It's happened again.
Oh, God, why don't we read all of the email before we read them out?
I just wanted you both to know that this makes a world of difference to me, and I'm sure for many others working through their own challenges. Wow. Keep on keeping on. Best of luck in the future. Fondest regards, Tristan, 23 and 33 73rds. Tristan, I'm so sorry.
Oh, Tristan, I'm so sorry.
Awful.
I feel... Oh, God. That... I really enjoyed reading your email. Thank you so much for emailing in. You will be pleased to know, you probably listened to it by now, but Taha Khan, noted YouTube magnate, came in and corrected us on economics.
He did.
So not quite to the level that you've been able to do so, because of course you're doing a PhD.
Tristan, God. Please in future too, if we ever make any other mistake, just in general, not even to do with economics, just we're expecting an email in our correspondence folder for correcting the Jew heresy that we've been spouting. Thank you so much for email, and again, so sorry.
And for the memes. I'm a fan of the memes.
Oh yeah, and we've got some incredible memes. P.S. I just wondered if either of you were friends of DeSoto. If not, check out the Greatest Generation podcast. It's a great show, which I think could be right up your alley. P.P.S. See enclosed memes as a humble tribute.
I've not heard of DeSoto or the Greatest Generation. I don't think.
No, I don't think I have either. Brilliant. There we go. We can add that to the recommended podcast list for the episode.
Yes, God. This is the podcast that just recommends lots of podcasts. Now, Dan, I know that you have put this into fanfiction, but I would really like you to read the final email of the show from William Humphreys.
Okay.
Subject: some thanks and a leader-style fanfiction.
Okay. I'm going to fly through this because I have a seminar in 25 minutes.
Okay.
So let's go.
Right. Go ahead, Dan.
Dear Messrs. Clark and Moore, sorry Dan, but convention states either by alphabetical ordering or ordering by academic superiority, both of which place Simon's name first. Yes. I have recently become a reader of the Wikicast and felt I should finally write in now that I have more or less caught up, having reached episode 46 in the course of about a week with only minimal impact by mental stability. Good Lord. As an Australian physicist and choral singer, although I specialise in systems much smaller than Simon, they can be no less complicated, I find your conversations interesting and frequent choral tangents refreshing. I felt that I could contribute a fan fiction corner with perhaps a more esoteric entry. I'm a huge fan of German music, in particular that of the Romantic era. As such, I've prepared a collection of poems based on the wonderful Lieder cycle, the first few poems of which can be found attached. The source poems are set from a single perspective until the very end. I have chosen to set it from Dan's perspective. Do with this information as you choose. Oh, is that an idea if it's got to be in my voice? I see.
I think so, yeah.
I apologise for the relative lack of progress in the first few poems, but I wanted to stay somewhat close to the source material, and that it does not move the plot until the fifth poem or so.
I see. Right, so there's no plot motion until later. Okay. Also,
I'm an unofficial member of Team Cat.
I'm a big fan of the way he's written his age, which is 24 plus. Well, it's an expansion. I can't even really read that out, but it's an expansion that's clearly tending towards something, and I can't be bothered to work out what it is. That's fantastic.
You've been doing P.S. You've been doing better with this of late, but just in case, I'd like to specify that I use gender-neutral pronouns.
Did we mess up on this email? I can't remember if what we said.
To be honest, I don't know. I read it so quickly I wasn't even thinking. Here we go.
Right, settle in for some leader, ladies and gentlemen.
Poem 1, The Rambler. To ramble is a lit major's joy. To ramble. A man cub is not much of a lit. If they have not thought of rambling yet. Ramble. We learned of it while in a nook, the cosy nook. It's tucked up in the library deep, and there I dream of rambling, oh, quiet nook. We also read it on a page. The pages, the words spring forth from on the page, and rambles all around my brain from pages. In all the words, as dark as they are, oh, writings, they join in with this merry stroll, and faster still they want to go, these writings. Oh, ramble, to ramble is my want. Oh, rambling, conductors and lecturers, give me leave to go in peace. Rambling. Poem 2.
That was lovely.
Where to? I heard a little rustling of pages from its source elsewhere in the rows, breaking up the deeper quiet, so crisp and utterly polite. I do not know what compelled me, or what advised me to act. I just had to go over it, carrying my book sack. Deeper, still further and further, always following the book, and the pages rustled ever brisker, and became clearer still. What is this path, then? Oh, book, tell me, where to? You have completely captivated me with your gentle rustling still. What can I say about the rustle? That can't be a simpler sound. It must be the fairies singing deeper under the ground. Sing on, friend book, keep rustling and lead me gladly along. There are pages always moving in every cloistered nook. 3. Halt. I see a small table lamp. Through the tight-packed shelves, the rustling and murmur seem to be drawing close. Welcome. Welcome, sweet quiet of this nook, and the chairs are so comfy, and the windows seem so kind, and the starlight, how cleanly they shine down from the sky, O rustling of the books, is this where you drew me nigh? The Beautiful Weatherman poems, 1 to 3.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
From William, very nice indeed.
Lovely delivery, by the way. Big fan.
Thanks. Thank you.
That's why I knew you'd do that better than me, so I thought I'd ask you to do it.
William, I think if you like, I mentioned him earlier. R.S. Thomas wrote a brilliant poem called. Hang on, I'm going to try and see if I can find it, and if we do, I'm going to close with a poem. Here we go. Yes, this is an extract of R.S. Thomas. It's called The White Tiger. He was a poet and Anglican priest. Very, very interesting man. Very interesting. He's obsessed with this idea of Deus Absconditus, which is the hidden god, and his god in question, his hidden god, he's finding through words, through language. This is called the White Tiger. It was beautiful as God must be beautiful. Glacial eyes that had looked on violence and come to terms with it, a body too huge and majestic for the cage in which it had been put. Up and down in the shadow of its own bulk it went, lifting, as it turned the crumpled flower of its face to look into mine own face without seeing me. It was the colour of the moonlight on snow, and as quiet as moonlight, but breathing as you can imagine that God breathes within the confines of our definition of him, agonising over immensities that will not return. There we go. R.S. Thomas. Bloody
This is why you're the poetry fan of the two of us. It's
great. He's really good, and a lot of his poems are very, very short, and they're just his use of syntax and space, and it's very cool.
Speaking of being short, we are short on time because Dan, we've got to get Dan to the wedding. So
I've got to get to the.
Do you want to ask me what we learned this week?
Yeah, Simon, what have we learned this week?
I'm glad you asked, Dan, because we learned about Vallesa de la Guareña, which is a municipality in Spain, and we spent most of that section actually talking about demonyms, which is the name used to refer to people from a particular place. Then we went on to talk about what I've been up to with the Yogscast, what you've been up to in Exeter. What else did we talk about?
We had the choral piece of the week, which is Roxana Panufnik's Westminster Mass. We had a lengthy discussion about the favourite. And various games we'd been playing too, Kingdoms, Two Crowns, and the new Civ 6 and Classic WoW, and God, it's just a kind of a classic snapshot of Wikicast discussion.
This was a good episode, I think. If I may say so myself, this was put a stamp on it. This was a good episode,
and we've had some lovely correspondence as well.
We have indeed,
complete with stunning poetry, which I'm a massive fan of. I think people need to read poetry more. You can consume it at will. Anthology of poetries are perfect because you don't have to feel the pressure of trying to finish a chapter or get to the end of a plot point in a book. You can read a poem, and then as soon as you want to stop and put it down, you can do.
People should read poetry more.
They should. Very nice. Yes, very good. And that's all for this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. You can like us on Facebook, and if you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric.
Thoughts on The Favourite? More podcast recommendations, because why not? And other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole,
and we'll see you next time.